here is the reality. The working class of this country is angry, and they have a reason to be angry. We are living in an economy today, Donna, where the people on top are doing phenomenally well, while 60% of our people are living paycheck to paycheck. 25% of elderly people are trying to get by on $15,000 a year or less. We have the highest rate of childhood poverty of almost any major country on earth.
I think he means by that we should have been more against big corporations. And if you take a poll, you find people in both parties really do favor that. That's why we can always pass a vote on raising the minimum wage in a red state.
So Bill Clinton is now taking shots at Bernie Sanders. Bernie Sanders is taking shots at the Democrat establishment, which includes Clinton, Pelosi, characters like that. What exactly is going on? Well, I want to talk today about the ongoing civil war within the Democrat Party in the wake of the 2024 election. And to some degree, you can't exactly blame the Democrats for this. Obviously, you lose to Trump twice, arguably maybe a third time. There's a lot of restructuring that needs to be done. A lot of people are pointing fingers, but there are many layers to the drama and the debate going on that we need to discuss. So folks, do us a big favor. If you enjoy the content, make sure you hit that like button down below and subscribe if you are new. And why should you subscribe? Because it ensures we can keep bringing you these videos, guys. We're trying to hit 400K by the end of the year. It's the best way to support the work for free. All you got to do is hit that red button. And with that said, okay, so let's start with Bernie Sanders, and then we'll explain what's going on with Clinton, and I'll tell you what I think. So essentially, in the wake of Democrats losing, Kamala Harris losing, Bernie has basically pivoted back to what he was doing in 2016, which was like challenging the Democrat establishment, saying that they were too corrupt or corporate or whatever it is. Because if you'll remember, for the past several years, Bernie has essentially been like a full-on Democrat shill. A lot of the people who originally supported him because they thought he was anti-establishment have sort of been disappointed. But now in the wake, he's pivoting back and arguing that the reason the Democrats lost this election is because they failed to speak to the working class. Take a listen. This is Bernie's take, and this is why he's essentially sort of waging war again on the Democrat Party. Here it is.
What you said?
Oh, absolutely. Look, Joe Biden is a friend of mine. I've been proud to work with him on an agenda which has been very strongly in favor of the working class. Biden promised to be the most progressive president since FDR. In many ways, on domestic issues, I think he kept his word. But here is the reality. The working class of this country is angry, and they have a reason to be angry. We are living in an economy today, Donna, where the people on top are doing phenomenally well, while 60% of our people are living paycheck to paycheck. 25% of elderly people are trying to get by on $15,000 a year or less. We have the highest rate of childhood poverty of almost any major country on earth, and parents all over this country worry that their kids may have a lower standard of living than they do. That is the economic reality.
Right. So you essentially have three schools of thought right now in the Democrat Party as to why they got so embarrassed in this election, right? On one hand, you have the idiots, the losers who are just saying that, they only lost because the American electorate is racist and sexist. And that's why, they just wouldn't vote for a black woman as president, which is a fundamentally, obviously unserious and ridiculous idea. It also begs the question, okay, if that's true, why didn't you keep Joe Biden in the race? That means Joe Biden, he's a white guy. He would have won, right? Right? It's almost like it's a little more complicated than that. But anyways, let's disregard those people. The people within the Democrat Party who are at least slightly more concerned with being serious and wanting to win their elections, there's basically two prevailing schools of thought. So the first is essentially the Bernie Sanders wing, which is it's fundamentally economic, right? That's the reason Democrats lost the election. And it's because when you look at the historic Democrat coalition, it's based on the working class. It's based on unions, on the FDR, JFK coalitions, etc. And by basically becoming the party of corporate neocons like Democrats have become under the era of Donald Trump. They alienated all these people. Inflation was a big problem. The Biden administration ignored it, and that's why they lost. Now, on the flip side, you have, I guess you could say, slightly the more Bill Clinton camp that are saying, no, it's more so because the Democrat Party has actually become too radical, especially on social issues. The woke, all these people, they really tanked the Democrat Party. It was immigration, it was crime, it was things like that. Democrats are perceived as crazy. That's why they lost. I'll tell you what I think about that debate in a little bit, because honestly, I think the truth is both. But first, okay, so there's Bernie kind of waging war on the Democrats. He's called them out repeatedly. He said they abandoned the working class. Here was what Bill Clinton said in response.
Where is the Democratic Party going from here? Because Senator Bernie Sanders, who doesn't even belong to the Democratic Party, says that the party wasn't progressive enough. Do you see it that way?
No. I mean, look at not progressive enough. The infrastructure bill. There's 60,000, I think, projects underway. They'll soon be up to 100. And the CHIPS bill. They're all over America. And interestingly enough, both those bills, a majority of the investments have been in rural red areas. So no, I don't think, I think he means by that we should have been more against big corporations. And if you take a poll, you find people in both parties really do favor that. That's why we can always pass a vote on raising the minimum wage in a red state, because blue-collar workers who distrust the government feel like those votes are something they can control. And they are skeptical of big corporations. On the other hand, the richest guy in America, maybe the world, Elon Musk, is up there listening on foreign phone calls with the president-elect, and they're not too concerned about it.
Right, so there you have Bill Clinton saying that, yes, Democrats maybe should have been more economically populist, but the framing from Bernie that the party just wasn't quote unquote progressive enough is a mistake. And so that's what he's saying. He sort of gave some concessions to Bernie, whatever. But now take a listen. So now Nancy Pelosi also further said that it's just complete nonsense that Democrats ignored or abandoned the working class. So take a listen to this. And this is kind of like the different debates, again, happening within the Democrat Party.
Well, as you know, your statement was met with some sharp reaction as well. This is what Speaker Emerita Nancy Pelosi had to say. Take a look. I'll get your reaction on the other side.
Bernie Sanders has not won. Let me, with all due respect, and I have a great deal of respect for him, for what he stands for, but I don't respect him saying that the Democratic Party has abandoned the working class families.
Senator, how do you respond to Nancy Pelosi?
Well, Nancy's a friend of mine, and we've worked together on many issues. But here is the reality. I have to say to Nancy, in the Senate in the last 2 years, we have not even brought forth legislation to raise the minimum wage to a living wage, despite the fact that some 20 million people in this country are working for less than $15 an hour.
Right, so there you have it. Again, like two prevailing schools of thought. Either the Democrat Party lost because they abandoned the working class economically, or some are saying on the flip side, you know, Clinton and Pelosi have sort of hinted at this, but, you know, it's back and forth, whatever. But generally, especially Bill Maher points this out, they lost because of the woke. Here's my thing. Here's my central conclusion. And I don't know if I should even be giving free advice to the Democrats, but if I were to break it down honestly, here's what I think. So I think both Bernie Sanders and Bill Clinton / Nancy Pelosi / the other people are right and wrong in some areas. Because the truth is, I think it's both. I think the Democrats lost both because of economic reasons and because of social reasons. So what do I mean by that? Well, from an economic perspective, Bernie Sanders is absolutely right that the party abandoned the working class. It, you know, sucked up to actually like Mark Cuban and all these people. And yes, the historic Democrat coalition is based on what? Working class voters, union workers, people who live paycheck to paycheck, etc. When you look old school, the Democrats used to win the lower income voters. Now that's sort of flipped on its head. Yes, Democrats lost the working class. They were tone deaf on inflation. Kamala Harris, for a little bit, had that plan on price gouging that I was actually afraid of. Even if I don't support price gouging, I was like, shoot, people are going to fall for this, aren't they? But then they pivoted And instead, we're like, no, actually, we're going to be the pro-business capitalists. And here's Mark Cuban running around and like, yeah, I don't think that helped the party. So yes. And by the way, one thing to point out on that front, I think in the end, Kamala campaigned more with Mark Cuban than she did like the United Auto Workers boss, which I don't like that guy. I don't like either of those people, frankly. But what would have been smarter politics in Michigan, right? UAW or Mark Cuban. So that is very true on Bernie Sanders' front. And I think for Nancy Pelosi to say that in no way have Democrats abandoned the working class is ridiculous. Of course, they absolutely have. Now, on the flip side, two things I'd say. First of all, I think Bill Clinton, of all people, probably has the best idea when he talked about you have to be anti-corporation, but don't be socialist, because I think what Bernie doesn't understand is, yes, the Democrat Party does win favorability by being economically populist and speaking to the working class. But at the same time, right, the American electorate is not radical. It is not socialist, right? So when you run around calling yourself a socialist, or you advocate, for instance, to abolish private health insurance in favor of a universal system that even a lot of the European countries don't do, right? They still allow private health care. That's insane. And that's also equally very off-putting and toxic to people. And that's what I think you got to understand. Now, on the flip side, on the social issues, yes, it is absolutely true. The woke stuff destroyed the Democrats in this election. And you can't underplay that. You can't ignore that. People think the trans stuff, for instance, is just insane. It just paints the picture of the Democrats being a very crazy party of people. Immigration was a big factor. Crime in a lot of the major cities, I think, was a big factor. And I think when you combine the two, so you have a party that is like elitist on the economic issues, right? It's like, hey, we actually love Liz Cheney, the neocons. We love Mark Cuban. We're like the pro-business party. But and this is wild, of course, the working class, the historic Democrat voters feel totally left behind. They're totally struggling. So they're out of touch. And then you combine that with the woke issues. It's like you have a party that so summarizes the Hollywood liberal, like the out of touch Hollywood liberal. That was a Democrat party this time around, because they ignore the working class on economic issues. And then on social issues, they're totally just tone deaf, out of touch, and crazy. That is the most elitist, condescending political party you can possibly build. And that's why they lost, right? You combine the two. So I think if I were to break it down honestly and objectively, and this is not me cheering on for the Democrats, but the strongest candidate that the Democrats could have in 2028, first of all, has to have a healthy distance from the Biden-Kamala establishment for obvious reasons. But on top of that, should be someone who is economically populist. And keep in mind, I say populist and not progressive, okay? Because I think that's where Bernie Sanders is wrong about some things. Yes, the average American wants to get higher wages, right? They want more time off. They want healthcare, etc. Yes, those are what you could call the populist issues. These are things that Democrats historically won the working class because of, right? Like sensible, moderate, you could say, like economic policies like that. But when Bernie runs around and says we're going to abolish private health insurance, no, that's not what the American people want. So economically populist, but not progressive, but then also socially moderate. Like just tune out the woke stuff, just forget all of that. I think that's their strongest candidate they could possibly have. I think when you look at historically the strong Democrat candidates like JFK, for instance, just as one example, that was what their strength was. Now, hilariously, though, it seems to me, I'm not sure Democrats will adequately figure this out in 2028, because you have many different figures in the party. They all have some piece of the puzzle correct in the question of why we are losing, but they don't understand the whole picture. Right? For instance, AOC, she understands the economic front and that the working class is struggling, but she's the same person who said she doesn't think the woke loses elections. Well, you're wrong. You're wrong on that. Yes, that is also losing the elections. You have Nancy Pelosi, who probably behind closed doors is saying, hey, guys, stop being socially radical, but also says, I don't think we lost the working class. We don't have to pivot at all on the economic issues. And then, of course, you have Bernie Sanders, who understands the working class part, but still thinks that the solution is to be a socialist and not just to be like a common sense, like working class populist. So I don't know. It's going to be very interesting to see if the Democrat Party like truly figures it out in 4 years. I'm not sure about that. And again, I think you also have to have someone who has a healthy enough distance from the Biden Kamala era where they won't get dragged down by the same woke social issues or tone deafness or whatever. And that might be a problem of Gavin Newsom, right? Because he is generally considered to be the top Democrat candidate for 2028. But look at California. Is he going to be able to adequately distance himself from both the woke and the Democrat establishment? Right? You have to have someone who I think can distance from both of those things. I don't know if Newsom can do it, frankly. You know, maybe someone like John Fetterman could do it. Hot take there. Even Dean Phillips or maybe Josh Shapiro to a degree. But if the Democrat electorate just decides it wants to nominate their next poster child, and Gavin Newsom may be a slick talker and all that, but on the issues, he's not going to be able to differentiate himself from the problems that have dragged down the Democrat Party electorally. Frankly, I don't know. And I don't really care. Okay, we're just sort of doing analysis here. But guys, there is the ongoing story on the civil war within the Democrat Party. Let me know your thoughts, right? Why do you think it is that the Democrats keep losing? Who do you think is the strongest Democrat candidate in 2028? Would love to know what you think about all of that. Be sure, guys, to leave a like on this video, subscribe if you are new, and until next time, God bless and peace.